ESBR Boxing. We are back, myself and my compadre, my friend Niall. We are here discussing, I suppose, our final predictions for the fight that's taking place tomorrow night, which is a fight between Natasha Jonas and Mikaela Mayer for the IBF World Welterweight title. Niall, obviously, thank you very much for joining me. I suppose there's not too much to say really around this one, other than Natasha Jonas, obviously a decorated champion, well known by British fight fans at this stage. Obviously been in there with the likes of obviously unfortunate losses with the likes of Katie Taylor, obviously one of your favourites, the draw with Terry Harper, been obviously a world champion through multiple divisions, and she's now coming most recently, obviously the super welterweight division, but she's now competing a welterweight against Mikaela Mayer. Mikaela Mayer, obviously previously was a champion at super featherweight. I've lost that fight to Alicia Baumgardner, who obviously since then has had an adverse finding in a drugs test, which that situation is ongoing. Well, I want to get to your sense, really, obviously, of final predictions, but also maybe a bit method of victory. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But firstly, I just want to get your views on your excitement for this fight. Is this a fight you're excited for? Is this one you're tuning into tomorrow night with great relish?
Yeah, I have to say I am. I am kind of looking forward to this one. It's always kind of a good occasion when two elite fighters are getting it on, so I am, but also I know we'll get to it at the end. I'm really struggling to call this one. I don't know about you. I find it really hard to split. I've there's a lot of kind of contributing factors, moving up in weight, all that sort of thing, and being in Jonas's hometown and all that. But in terms of an outcome, I'm struggling to call it. So yeah, I am looking forward to this one.
Excellent. No, your compatriot and Paul Kelly was also saying similar. Actually, he was saying that it's difficult to given that in female boxing people tend to sort of move amongst the weights quite liberally, and manage to sort of in between different fight camps, essentially be fighting in different divisions. I suppose one of the threads really with this week has been, I suppose, the power of Natasha Jonas. So 14 wins, 9 KOs. Versus what would obviously be the points kind of approach from Mikaela Mayer, who's had 5 KOs out of 19 victories. Suppose the question I want to ask you really before we do our final predictions is whether you think that Mikaela Mayer could actually hurt Natasha Jonas, possibly by a stoppage. Natasha Jonas only obviously had one stoppage before, where she lost to Vivienne Obanov. That was back in 2018. Whether you think actually Mayer might be able to stop Jonas, and equally, conversely, whether you think Jonas will be able to outpoint Mayer.
Yeah, I don't think that Mikaela Mayer can stop Jonas. To be honest, as you say, it's not her style. She's not a big puncher at all. She's very good technically. Great jab, great kind of fundamentals from her amateur pedigree. Obviously, Jonas does as well, but Jonas has the edge in power. So I do believe that if it's Mikaela Mayer is going to win this, it has to be on the cards, which is going to be very tough. Being in Liverpool is going to be very tough. Can she outbox Jonas? Absolutely, especially with the reach advantage, and the solid fundamentals. But yeah, as you mentioned, Jonas has the edge in power. So I do think that Jonas could end up stopping Mikaela Mayer. Would it necessarily surprise me? Not particularly. But Mikaela Mayer has faced power punchers before. She's faced Alicia Baumgardner, and she hasn't really been rocked. She's faced Maiva Hamadouche, who can also punch. He's a big puncher for the lower weight classes, but this is up at welterweight now, so it will be very interesting to see can she take a shot off a welterweight. So yeah, I think for Mayer it has to be points for me, but Jonas could end up getting to her and stopping her.
Well, Niall, I'm not unfortunately going to let us sit on the fence any longer. I'm actually going to come to you now for the prediction. We can maybe unpick one of those two threads just before we finish. Which way do you see it going then, Niall? Talk to me. Who's going to win on Saturday night? How and in what way, please?
As I mentioned, it's a hard one to call, and there's a lot of kind of deciding factors. The weights. I was thinking, will Mayer be kind of flat moving up the weights? She looked a little bit overblown, I think, at the weigh-in today. She's moving up quick through the weights. Her last three fights have been 135, 140, and then 147. So it's going to be interesting to see that. But Jonas has done it too with great success, so why can't Mayer? But the one thing I'm going to go with that will be the deciding factor for me is the location of this fight. I think being in Liverpool is going to just edge it to Jonas. The swing rounds, which there's going to be a lot of swing rounds, they're going to go to Jonas. I think it's safe to say that with the crowd reaction. So I'm going to say Jonas maybe hurts Mayer, maybe even kind of drops her and scrapes either a majority or a split decision for me. Yeah, so that's what I'm going for, Jonas decision.
Jonas decision. Well, no, that is very, very interesting because I agree with you actually. I don't think this fight is actually going to end prematurely. I actually think it's going to be points as well, and I've taken the Liverpool factor into it as well. So to be honest with you, I'm not precious about this prediction either. I think Jonas on points is a smart prediction. I am living in a world where there won't be any sort of dodgy judging, and that's why I'm leaning slightly towards my points. But however, I'm not in any way diminishing your prediction. I think yeah, it's for me it's a kind of 50-50, and the location really plays into it as well. Niall, one last question I'm going to ask you really is it's just about age. Is there anything in Natasha Jonas is 39 years old now. We've seen obviously Tebiev last week, 38, 39, getting on. These guys seem to be going further and further, longer into their careers. Is there anything you've noticed in Natasha Jonas recently that suggests that she is slowing down, or do you think she's just continuing from strength to strength as a pro?
Yeah, it is an interesting question. Obviously, at 39, you would expect people to kind of slow down and be on the kind of back nine. But I think Jonas, looking back at our last few fights, has looked good. I think even like moving up and down the weights and being successful, I thought it looks like she looks fresh. Looks like she hasn't kind of missed a step. It's it's Mayer for me, funnily enough, that's looked a little bit flat moving up through the weights in the last couple of fights, a bit more flat-footed than she usually is, coming up to 135 and then 140. So yeah, that is a strange one, although she's kind of nearly 40, I think she still looks great, for her age, and she looks fresh, the last couple of fights beating the care, Namus, them sort of names, she's looked good, so age wouldn't be too much of a worrying factor, but there is always the risk of one night. Will it kind of catch up on a fighter? I did call that happened last week, and it didn't. So yeah, but it could do. It definitely could do, but no, not so far. I wouldn't be too concerned.
Niall, thank you very much. Obviously, look, Niall, I think, if you're in Liverpool, you obviously had a bit of a defeat last week. Your mood was down, but hopefully this week, Tasha Jonas can relift your mood. Niall and I agree. We think it's going to go 10 rounds. So I suppose if you're from a betting perspective, maybe stick it on going the distance. Niall edging it towards Natasha Jonas, myself thinking possibly Mikaela Mayer, but I think it'll be a close fight. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't at all be surprised if Niall was proven correct out of the two of us and Jonas did get a decision. Guys, let us know what you think in the comments, how you see the fight going, whether you think age will play a factor, whether you think weight will play a factor, and how so, who you think will win and why, whether it be, KO, whether it be points. Niall, as always, thank you very much for joining me. Guys, as always, thank you very much for watching.